There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. All right. There we go. Cool. Okay, and picture. There we go. I think everything's good. Hope you're doing well. It's very gloomy today, but it's not raining. Rained all day yesterday. Hello, notification on. Good to hear. There we go. Cool. Let's see here. Thumbnail looks like a 90s boy band getting together for a reunion tour. That's not a good looking band. Everything's good. Hope you're doing well. Crabman, how you doing? Very gloomy today, but it's not raining. Syracuse, New York, still no snow here. Couldn't be more pleased. Well, hello, notification on. Good to hear. Let's see here. Good afternoon from windy North Wales. Good to say hi to all the members of boy band getting together for a reunion tour. That's not a good looking band. Everything's good. D-side Defenders. Well, Crabman, how you doing? Gloomy today, but it's not raining. Syracuse, New York, still no snow here. Couldn't be more pleased. Well, I wish we had gaming clubs here in the States. We don't really do that as much. Good afternoon from windy North Wales. Good to say hi to all the members of the boy band getting together for a reunion tour. That's not a good looking band. Everything's good. Morning from very windy Georgia. Feels like today. Chicago. Good time. Syracuse, New York, still no snow here. Couldn't be more pleased. I wish we had gaming clubs here in the States. Here, VinciCon and a chance to change your mind on Nemo with North Wales and roll dice. Say hi to all the members of the boy band. I would like to come, but like I said, it's literally the next weekend after Las Vegas. Chicago. Good time. Syracuse, New York, still no snow here. Couldn't be more pleased. I wish we had gaming clubs here. Son of a... Why does that always change? The thing about streaming is that every time you do something, it's different, and it's weird. And now I have lost my chat window. There we go. Okay. Apologize for that. It's a streamer that I follow sometimes that once said that streaming is like living in a house with ghosts. Sometimes you just come downstairs and all the furniture's been moved around and you have no idea why. And that's OBS. I'm using XSplit here, but I usually use OBS. And every once in a while it just decides, no, I'm going to change things. Anywho. Where was I? Anyway, Nemo. Going to Nemo possibly. Like I said, it's the next weekend after Las Vegas Open, and I'll be in Las Vegas from Wednesday until Monday. So, I don't know. That's going to be a lot of Las Vegas. But I would like to go. I think it'd be a lot of fun. For people who don't know, Nemo is the New England Mordheim Open, run by the Under the Dice folks, Hive Scum podcast, stuff like that. Good morning, good afternoon from the sunny French Alps. Nice. VJ Morph, how you doing? Good morning from Virginia. Kent, England, Washington, D.C. How you doing, Fungazi? Audio's looping. I apologize. That's... Morning, hobby friends from the rainy, dreary side of Wisconsin. Just pretending to be on a sunny, warm beach. It's not working. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, like it rained all day yesterday here. Not hard, just like sprinkled basically all day. And now it's thankfully stopped, and it should not do it for a while. Jim Crimmins, how you doing? Mexico City. High school Glee Club reunion. I don't think any of those guys were in high school when I was in high school. I always apply, but it's always full. I mean, I understand that. By this time next week, the days are getting longer again. That's true. It's a good way to look at it, I think. Actually up at this time, surveying any damage from a freak storm that passed through last night. Stayed awake all night looking out for freak tornadoes. Freak tornadoes are the worst. Oh, yeah. Echoing. Sorry. Gloomy Soggy, South Ontario. Eyeing a pile of Legion Imperialis kits I'm hoarding. Wow, that's pretty cool. An echo of an echo. That's weird. Let's see. Fixed. Hooray. There we go. All right. I'm embedding subliminal messages. If only I knew how. Boy, that would be something. Is this what it would sound like if Adam was a demon? I mean, maybe. That was trippy. Yeah, I don't know why, but like I said, sometimes the audio is already muted and sometimes it's not, and then it's me talking and then it's me because I can see the YouTube at the same time. It's a whole thing. So I apologize for that. Let's see here. Hope VinciCon was fun for all. Yeah, it was a good time. I mean, my back was screwed up the whole time, and so that was a problem. Like, I threw my back out a month ago, like on a Sunday, and it's been getting better and getting better and getting better, and it was getting better, and things were going pretty well. And then I went to VinciCon, and you know, being on 2 different flights and planes where you're kind of just like, if you're a big guy like me, you don't fit in planes. It's a whole thing. And yeah, I was kind of screwed up quite a bit. And then, but it was okay. Like if I sat, you know, and sat up pretty straight in a chair as opposed to slouching or, you know, whatever, it was fine. But then when I would get up, almost every time I would stand up from sitting for a while and, you know, building things and whatever, because I didn't paint the whole time I was there. The other guys were all painting, and I'll show you some of the stuff that they were painting, but I was building models, and I'll show you some of that too. But when I would get up, I would be all, you know, curled up and hunched and stuff, and have to kind of stretch around before I could like actually walk around and, you know, move around and such. And then when I got back, again, being on 2 flights, it was even worse. And I was in real bad shape earlier this week, and I went to the chiropractor on Tuesday and Wednesday. Got back on Monday, like late-ish, like basically about 20 minutes before my normal stream would have started, so it wasn't going to work out. Plus, I was just in a lot of pain. So yeah, I went to the chiropractor on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I would say I'm at 93, 94% right now. Like right now I've got a little bit of hip, like my hip is a little weird for some reason, which has never been an issue before, but my back is mostly all better and everything. So yeah, it's just strange. The human body is dumb. Let's see here. We are not in the sunroom. Well, it's not the end of the year yet. My wife and I yesterday worked on the sunroom a good portion of the day. She has painted it, and she touched up the paint a little bit, caught some little spots yesterday morning, and then I had to go help my mom, and then we went grocery shopping, and then we came back here and moved furniture around, and my wife built an IKEA desk for me because she's very good at building IKEA stuff. And so today my plans are, she's got a music gig, so she's going to be gone. I'm going to be working on hanging blinds. There's a lot of windows in the sunroom, as it turns out. So there's that. And then, so yeah, in 2 weeks, I'm not sure if we'll be quite ready. There may be some wiring issues at that point, but the one after that, because in 2 weeks, it'll still be this year, right? Yes, it'll be the 31st. It'll be New Year's Eve. So, but yeah, it'll either be going next week or it'll be the one after that, or sorry, next issue, episode, whatever, or it'll be the one after that. But it is in progress. Let's see. Merry Christmas for myself and family in Japan. Well, that's good. Your first stream. I appreciate it. Vegas is always a lot of Vegas. True. Very true. Saskatchewan, how you doing? Rockton, Illinois. Howdy. Osaka, Japan. Jonesboro in Southern Illinois. Morning from a dreary Junction City, Wisconsin. Yeah, it's dreary here too. Putting in some OT and catching a live show. Nice. I appreciate it. Good morning from Milwaukee. Hopefully the cats are doing well from passing a member of the family. I feel like maybe Margot is acting out a little bit more, but I'm not sure. I don't know. Santa Fe, New Mexico. How you doing? Assembling an orc kill rig, and I hate it. Well, that's a bummer. Is there a website for the Nemo 2024? Sounds amazing. I think if you look at underthedice.com, maybe. I could be wrong on that, but do a search for Under the Dice. How's the sunroom coming? Like I said, pretty good. We vacuumed real hard in there, and my wife used Pledge on all the window frames and all that stuff. After I vacuumed all the window frames, we moved a light in there, moved some furniture around. Desk is set up. I should have taken a picture, but it's in progress. So yeah, it's going well. Like I said, I'm hanging window blinds today. I ordered these window blinds from Lowe's back around Thanksgiving. Yeah, so there's a bunch of them that need to get hung. Should travel in baggage, more room. Yeah, it could be. Had a lower back muscle spasm that took more than a week to work out, debilitating. Yeah, it's no fun. It's no fun. Poland, how you doing? I've had the hip thing. I always assumed it was from muscles covering for your back. I think that that's very probably the case. Like, while your back is trying to get better, I think your pelvis is sort of holding yourself in a certain, because I noticed I was sort of tilty a little bit. And so I'm thinking that, yeah, this is just the hip trying to get over that now that the back is doing its job again to some degree. I think does a better job of reminding you that you're getting old, quite like throwing your back out while doing something totally normal. See, that's the thing. This time I didn't even do anything. I just woke up on a Sunday to do an Every Other Sunday show, and I woke up and my back was a little stiff, and over the course of the day, and this is a month ago, it just kind of got worse and worse and worse, and then it just kept going. The last time I did this was in like almost a decade ago. It's like 2014, and that I remember, like, I was doing something, and I was like, and I felt it was like a stab in the back. The first time this ever happened was in the very late 90s. And again, this is how long ago it was. I was bending over to plug in a landline. You don't do that anymore, really. So I was bending over to plug in a landline, and it was like, yeah, it was like getting stabbed in the back. So it was very strange. Let's see. Human body is indeed dumb, but it hasn't reached its final form yet. Ooh. Good morning from Iowa. How you doing? Good morning from NYC. Hope everyone's working on something fun. Indeed. As a Vegas resident, can confirm Vegas is a lot of Vegas. Yeah, I haven't been there since 2020. I was there just before the pandemic. I was there in late January 2020. So it'll be interesting to go back to LVO, especially since it's in a different place now. When it used to be at the Bally, I had been there 3 or 4 times, I think 3 maybe. We'll see how the Rio works out. I've heard different things, you know, like I know the first year that it went back to the Rio and they started back up again, a lot of people were unhappy because the Rio had like a bunch of different restaurants in there and like 1 or 2 of them was open. So again, that was like, I don't know, probably 2021 or 2022 whenever they started that back up again. So, you know, not necessarily things weren't really back to normal yet, and I wouldn't say that they are yet back to normal yet either, but you know. Portugal saying hello and sending hugs. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Puckle Church in the UK finishing off Goblin Pirates for Moonstone. Nice. Good afternoon from Dusseldorf. Have a great Sunday. You too. Took a paint break from my Kroot kill team. Greets from Amsterdam. How you doing? Torn between working on the stuff needed finishing or tearing into tanks and soldiers. Decisions. It's indeed, yeah. Yesterday, when my wife was building the desk, I was working on getting textures on bases for Necrons to finish up my Necron combat patrol. So the other plan today, after I hang the blinds, is then I need to prime those Necrons. It's 5 Necron warriors and 3 bases of scarabs. And then in theory, I should be able to start working on them on Monday night on Twitch, which I stream on Twitch on Monday nights, in case you don't know, and also Friday mornings. So Monday night at 7 p.m. Central and Friday mornings at 10 a.m. Central. I usually go for about 3 hours on each of those. Twitch.tv/tabletop minions. Boom. There we go. Promotion. Yeah, so I've been working on the Doomstalker on Twitch for a while, and he's pretty much done. And now, like I said, I just need to get those 5. I just need to get those 5 warriors, because I already have 5 other warriors done. They have 2 different types of guns in the combat patrol, and the original ones that I built, they all had the same gun, like the single barrel, the Gauss Flare, maybe, I don't know, or Gauss Blaster, I don't know. But you got to have 5 with those, and then 5 with a double-barreled kind of Gauss gun. So I built those while I was at VinciCon. And also the 3 bases of scarabs, and so now I want to get those ready to go so I can paint them, because then at that point I will have 4 completed combat patrols, and then I'll start on the next one. So let's see here. Pulled my back out at work. PT taught me that hamstrings and abdominal muscles are the things you all need strengthened. Yeah. Gloomy Copenhagen, how you doing? One of my legs is shorter than the other, which builds up a knot in my back that pinched my sciatica. Pure misery. The chiropractor guy was like, he's like, there's something going on here, because currently he's like, it seems like one of your legs is slightly shorter. He's like, it's not always, it's probably your pelvis, because it's compensating for your back, and it's a whole thing. And he's like, I think last time I was in there, which was Wednesday, he's like, oh yeah, everything's kind of straight again. And I'm like, well, that's good. My wife and I have a heating pad preference. I feel you. Yeah, we have one of those, it's like a bag. It's like a cloth bag, heavy duty stuff. And it's filled with something. It might be corn. It might be barley. It might be, it's not rice. I know it's not rice because it's bigger. And you throw it in the microwave for like 2 minutes, and then it's nice and hot. Well, not too hot though, you know, and then you put it on your back, and it's like a heating pad, and then it slowly kind of cools down and stuff. And it's nice. And it sort of smells like a little bit like popcorn or something. I don't know, which when you microwave it. Terrier Halo, how you doing? Good morning from Albuquerque, painting up some extra warband members for the Doomed. Nice. Really been enjoying the campaign for it so far. That's very cool. I've got my copy of it over there. And I want to, one of these days, I want to see if I can't maybe see if I have stuff for it already, or maybe build some stuff for it. Greetings from Columbus. My condolences regarding Diesel. I know what it's like losing a pet to illness. My continued prayers. I appreciate that, DJ Todd P. Harris. Yeah, it's been, there've been some times when it's been like kind of tough, just as like, because you've got like a routine you get into, and then that routine gets broken by the cat not being there, kind of thing. Crazy busy with gigs here, no time for minis, but finally undaunted to the table. That's pretty cool. I mean, the end of the year is always very busy for you, I think, isn't it, BJ Morph? Morning from SoCal. Big cleanup at home, and I'm getting much better hobby space that just keeps me going. That's pretty good. Afternoon, Uncle Adam, and everyone. Attempting to take a halfway decent photo of my new Sisters of Sigmar warband. I'm waiting for the first big muscular pain of winter. Oh, wow, yeah. Speaking of photos, oh yeah, I brought it over here. I just got this thing that I ordered it online like a long time ago. Well, not that long ago. But it's a tiny little fog machine. You put stuff in. It's almost like a vape kind of thing, sort of. But I think there's maybe a fan inside there, so you don't have to like suck it and then blow it out like you would with a vape. It just blows out some sort of fluid. I don't know. But yeah, it's like a little tiny vape. A little tiny fog machine, which I'm going to be using for taking photos of miniatures and stuff like that, which I'm really looking forward to messing around with. So yeah, that just showed up. I'd ordered it like a month ago, and it was one of those things where it was like, I didn't get it on Amazon. It was like, I think it was one of the dreaded Facebook ads, or else it was an Instagram ad, and I was like, is this ever going to show up? Like sometimes you look at those things and you're like, that's not. Very frequently, if I see something on especially on Instagram, the first thing I do is I go look for it on Amazon if I can get it there instead, because I'm a little bit more like, if it never shows up, you can get your money back kind of thing. I'm like, if I order this direct from these people, I'm wary sometimes. And I've gotten, tricked before, only really once that I can remember. I ordered a clock that showed up and was not anything like it was in the picture. And then but luckily that was through PayPal or whatever, so I was able to get my money back or whatever. But yeah, so yeah, a little tiny smoke machine is going to be kind of interesting for photos of miniatures and stuff like that. I've always wanted to try one, and I've always been like, well, I can get a smoke machine, but then they're like big. Like even the ones for like your porch for Halloween, like the home ones, not like a professional smoke machine. Those are way more than I need generally, so. Oh, geez. Let's see here. Yorkshire, England. How you doing? Hi from a cold and gray South Wales. The under 12s rugby is finished for Christmas. Thank the gods. Well, that sounds, yeah. Morning from Florida Panhandle. 2 weeks late, but would like a video on your miniature photography setup. Do you use light boxes, what lenses, so on? Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea either. The problem is that it's not a video that a lot of people will care about. You know what I mean? Because if I talk about all the different stuff I use and everything like that, people will be like, it's like whenever you talk about a video where you use an airbrush, there's always somebody in the comments who is like, well, I'm never going to use an airbrush. I'm not a professional, or I don't have the money or the space or whatever. And, you know, space, money, those types of things, space specifically, I can totally understand. Even money, like you can get a really inexpensive airbrush and it will do just a fine job, even with a compressor and the whole deal. Like I bought an airbrush with a compressor. I mean, it's not the one that I normally use, but I bought it for testing purposes to see, and it was like $60, like the airbrush and the compressor. And it works for base coating and stuff like that. Like you're not going to paint eyes with it, but it works just fine. Space is a different story. If you're in a place like in a, you know, an apartment or whatever, or you're living with your family or whatever, there's just not a lot of space. You don't need a lot of space, but you do need a space that you can like put some sort of, you know, you either need to be able to like sort of make a room a bit dusty with paint over time, or you need to build some sort of little device to suck up the stuff into a filter, which is not particularly hard. There's plenty of people online that they'll tell you how to use a cardboard box and a, you know, like a furnace filter and a fan to make a good thing that will make it so you don't get weird dust and junk all around the room and stuff like that. But yeah, so the photography thing, though, if you're like, oh, I use this type of camera and this type of lens and these types of soft boxes and all kinds of stuff like that, people are going to be like, yeah, I don't have any of that stuff. I want to learn how to take a good picture with my cell phone, which I've done some videos about that. But yeah, it's something to think about, though. I understand what you're talking about. It's one of those things where I'm like, I wonder if I should would it be useful to do that as like a YouTube short? Should I start a blog? You know what I mean? Like those types of things. I don't know. Heard about aching back. Hope it gets better soon. Right now, it's pretty good. Like I said, I'm probably 93%, so that's pretty good. Good morning from Zephyr Hills, Florida. That's a pretty cool name. Just painting some Tyranids in my hotel room, working out of town in the Quad Cities. Well, there you go. Today's the start of my Marvel Zombies painting project to round out the year. Nice. Good to see a new video based on the amalgamation of ideas from the previous Every Other Sunday show. Yeah. I wanted to start doing some of those. I'd found, like, in the past, this is what I've done. I've gone through and like literally just run the video at like 2x speed, and then every time I see like something come across in the replay of the chat, then I would copy it and then paste it and copy it and paste it and all that kind of stuff. And it was tedious. Well, as it turns out, I don't remember where. I just did a couple of searches on Google and I found a website where you can put in the URL for a YouTube video, and then you can just say, I want all of the comments in a text format, like CSV, or I want all of the, live chat or whatever. And I just was able to download a document, like a TXT file, and then go through and just grab all the parts that were, needed and then put them in. It was way faster. So that was actually quite nice. Anytime you're like, I wonder if I can do this, just look online. Oh, I wonder if I could get something that tells me this about my YouTube channel, or I wonder if I could, grab all the comments easily. Because like YouTube doesn't give you the ability to just download all your comments or all your chat, but everybody else, there's other people out there who do it. So it's not too bad. Sorting my paints as I want to start again with a simpler collection. Yeah, that's something I'm going to have to do this week too. I'm going to have to go through, I started a little bit yesterday, but I'm going to have to go through and move my paints around in the downstairs next to my hobby area. Like I said, I was working and I was basically just building. I was doing a little bit of painting as well yesterday on a piece, just messing around with it, kind of. It's almost like a test piece. It's like a failed 3D print that I was just kind of seeing what I could do with it. But the reason I need to move some things around, I'm hoping not to hurt myself moving this. This showed up also on Friday. So yeah, this is the full new Fanatic 216 paints. This is the complete set, which they will be selling at launch sometime at the beginning of the year. But they're not, I think they're taking pre-orders maybe now. But that's all the colors, plus all the different washes, including the new ones, and also all the new metallics and stuff like that. So I've not even got a chance to open it yet. It just showed up on Friday, and then yesterday I was busy all day. So it's I'm looking very much forward to going through and messing with the washes. Like, the washes are not particularly reformulated from what I understand. They are, well, there's new ones. There's like some new colors and stuff like that, but the like black, dark tone, strong tone, light tone, whatever, soft tone, all those are pretty much the same formulation from what I understand, but there are some other ones that are like even newer in there that they didn't have before. There's also technical ones in there too, like rust and goo and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot going on in there. I think last one of these that I did, I showed you, the graphic. We went to the website and saw all the different colors and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, this showed up, and it is heavy. It is a heavy, heavy, heavy box. It is surprising, but again, it's 216 bottles of paint. So yeah, but that showed up on Friday. So let's see here. 11 out of 10 thumbnail today. You put that on a miniature game about some kind of space race, and I'm all in. So that was Sam's idea. Sam took that picture. So yeah, the last year the picture that we took was like it was kind of like the cover of I don't know what it was exactly. It was kind of like a metal album, sort of, like everybody was just like, bro, I don't know. It was weird. You may have seen that image, but this is the yeah, this was the picture for the that Sam set up his camera and all that kind of stuff, and then we kind of all got in this different pose and whatnot. And so yeah, that was I don't know, Saturday or Sunday night, I forget which. Let's see here. Japanese side of my Conflict 47 Pacific Island set built, ready for priming. Nice. Getting the jump on those 24 projects, that's a good idea. 5 Necron Warriors, 3 base scarabs. Pretty sure there's a song in there. 5 golden Necrons. Well, they're not gold, they're more coppery, but yeah. Morning from Rhode Island, working on Solar Auxilla for Legions Imperialis. Nice. I love your Monday night streams. It's right at my wife's football time, so I hang out with you in my nerd bunker. Nice. my wife is usually watching football at the same time. Let's see here. I hate they split those guns for the warriors and the combat patrol. I mean, well, I understand it, I guess, but I wish they hadn't, because I already had 10 of them already done with the single barrel one. So I was like, well, now I have to do 5 more. But, it's fine. Let me move my mic, I think, a little bit. Whoops. Finishing up 2 test models for Ice World's Tyranids. Nice. There's no Gaslands Friday night. The Christmas poker game took precedent. I stink at poker. Much better Gaslands player. Yeah, I'm not good at poker either. Castleberry, Florida. How you doing? Halfway through my Conquest First Blood Old Dominion City States boxes. My gaming club Pachow is just my 11-year-old son of me right now. Nice. Are you watching Monarch? Declan has gotten right into the Godzilla Monsterverse, so he's loving it. I haven't watched it yet, but I keep meaning to. Non sequitur, but wanted to share that I solved the mold problem with my wet palette by spraying an alcohol-based cleaner on the inside lid. Mold is no longer an issue. Interesting. The guys from Game Envy have these little metal pieces that you can get and put in your wet palette that have 2 features. Number one is they're kind of like an L-shaped sort of thing, or like I don't know, but you put them in the corners to hold down the paper so it doesn't curl. And secondly, they're made out of either copper or zinc, or maybe just straight copper. I don't know. They're made out of some metal that's also supposed to help with mold too. So Game Envy sells these little pieces of metal that you can put in your wet palette to make sure the stuff doesn't curl and also help with mold. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I learned about that at Nova Open. Those heating bags can get too hot in the microwave. My dad totally earned himself some blisters when he let it heat too long. Yeah, I never do it more than 2 minutes. It's usually right at 2 minutes, and that seems to be the sweet spot for that particular size bag, but it is a thing you need to test. It's true. I've built 40K and Age of Sigmar, and I'm about to do Napoleonic Infantry and World War II 72nd scale from Italy. I think I know who they are. 170 minis for $50. I mean, that's a pretty good price. Are you familiar with Too Fat Lardy's historical large skirmish rules? The only game that I know of from them, and I know of the company. I know they've been around for a while. They're an English company, I believe, 98% sure. The only one that I know of is I watched some people play it. I think I actually watched it at LVO years ago. It's called What a Tanker. And that's the only one of theirs. I know they've got other games. Something about I ain't been shot, mum, or something like that. I don't know. It's I think it's a lot of English slang or things that like make sense if you're English, maybe, as far as the titles that they use, which is fine. But yeah, What a Tanker. I watched some people play that, and they were using like the only way I could explain it was chibi tanks. Like everything, all of the scenery looked normal. It was little, bocage and little houses and this and all that kind of stuff. But the tanks were all chubby and sort of squooshed, you know what I mean? And they looked like chibi tanks, and it was kind of interesting. But yeah, that was but I've not played it though. Highlighting, excuse me, highlighting the tunics of 20 tacticals for my word bearers. Wow, that's a lot of tunics. Let's see here. Lost my 16-year-old cat in October 2022. 3 months later, found a chunky 2-year-old tabby at a foster agency, and he's helped heal the hole in my heart. Couldn't ask for a better cat. Yeah, we're wondering about whether we want to get another cat or not. At the very least, it would be after the holidays, probably, but we're not sure. December to February is usually my busiest time of year. This is VJ Moore, if that makes sense. I'm in a 400-foot square studio. A 400 square foot studio. Airbrush is fine. Yeah, I mean, it's an issue of like, if the only place you ever get to paint is your dining room, then having an airbrush is hard. Obviously, I get that, because you have to set up your hobby set every time that you want to work on stuff. And then that being said, I have seen people airbrush in all kinds of strange places. I think the most recent one is I was at a convention here in Wisconsin back in October. I was in Dragonfall, and there was just like round conference table-y kind of things, like at the thing, and there were people back there who were painting, and there was a guy who was just airbrushing, but he had like one of those like battery powered like airbrush compressor things, those kind of inexpensive ones, not the one that's attached to the actual airbrush, but the one where it's like that, but there's a short hose in it, and he was just sitting there working and airbrushing and stuff. And as long as you're just doing a little bit of it, and you still want to keep something over your mouth, in my opinion, because you don't want to be inhaling it. But yeah, it's just like, before I had the kind of suction hood thing or whatever that I have in my my room downstairs for airbrushing, before I had that, I just had to dust that room once in a while, just wipe it down with a damp cloth, because you would get like paint would settle, and then you would just have to wipe it, but it wouldn't stick to stuff. You know what I mean? Nothing that a damp cloth couldn't take care of. But again, that was over 6 months to a year of use, as opposed to like, if you just do it once in a while, it's a different story. But yeah, I get it. I want to paint Kill Team Legionnaires from Chaos. Anyone have a favorite Legion color pattern? Love the Black Legion, but thinking about making them Emperor's Sons. Gotcha. Box fan, tape, furnace filter, used insulation foam to make the box around it. Yeah. Got an airbrush spray booth for my birthday. Previously used a box, and I don't have any dust. Is that wishful thinking? I mean, I've got one of those. It's not crazy expensive. I think it was like, I don't know, $120. And it's got a built-in LED lighting, and I got it on Amazon, and it folds up. You could carry it around. It has a little handle on it. You could use it, like a suitcase, I guess. I don't know why but I guess if you traveled with it, I suppose. But yeah, but I have one of those, and it has an exhaust port on the back that you're allegedly supposed to put like a 4-inch like dryer, hose on, and then blow it outside. But that's only if you're using something that has fumes. Like if you're using enamel paints, maybe, or different types of solvents, or I don't know exactly what you would do. When you're just spraying acrylic paint through your airbrush, there are no fumes, because the air that's being blown through the propellant is compressed air from the room that you're in. So there's no fumes already, right? So like if you were to use a spray can in that thing, then yeah, you want to blow that outside, because the propellant is in the spray can, and it is icky, you know, and smells bad. That's why, like, there's no smell when you spray paint, or sorry, when you airbrush, because the propellant is just compressed air from the room that you're already in. But a rattle can stinks, partially because of the paint, but also partially because of the propellant. So if you decided you wanted to use a rattle can in your spray hood thing, you could, but you would want to blow it outside. But if you're just using it for your airbrush, you don't need to blow it outside. Mine, like I said, the hole in the back that is supposed to be get hooked to the hose is maybe, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 inches from the back wall in that room. So I assumed over time I was going to start to see a real kind of like a very light kind of dark circle, because I would assume that some, you know, paint particles were going to not get caught by the filter thing and blow through and then hit the wall. And then over time it was just going to start, which would wipe away. It wouldn't be a big deal. But I just looked, I don't know, like a month ago, and there's nothing, because it's a white wooden wall. Excuse me. It's a white wooden wall. The room that I do my airbrushing in used to be an old coal deposit room. Like back in the old days when a truck would come by and dump coal into your basement so that you could heat your home. Like, our house is old. For the United States, it's old. Anyway, yeah, so one of the walls is cinder block, because that's the foundation of the hut. But then, and one of the other walls is cinder block. But then 2 of the walls are just wood, and they're white painted wood, and it's, you know, but I'm not seeing that circle. So the filter's catching most of the paint particles and everything like that. I still wear a mask when I use that thing, but yeah. The mask is important because you just don't want the paint particulate in your throat or lungs, really. Carlson has a sad this morning. I don't know what he's doing. Let's see here. Never got the cost argument with airbrushes from Warhammer players. 10 Space Marines cost more than my airbrush. Yeah, well, that's the thing, too. That's always the case, too. For me, like I said, I totally understand the space limitations. Again, if you live with roommates, if you live with your parents, if you just don't have the space or whatever the deal is, or, you know, I get that. But, and it used to be airbrushes were probably pretty expensive. And if you want like a really nice fancy one, yeah, they're not cheap. But like a one that'll work just fine for most things that you want to do, yeah, costs less than most Games Workshop models. Excuse me. I got an airbrush spray booth for my birthday. Previously used a box, and I don't have any dust. Yeah, I think I read that one. Sorry. I need one of those cardboard box tutorials. I mean, you can find them on all over on YouTube. Yeah. Could do a second channel for these ideas not to mess with the algorithm. Yeah, it's possible. Video is the reason I bought an airbrush. It was an excellent decision to up my mini painting game. Yeah, I mean, for me, the reason I got airbrush was because I live in Wisconsin. And so there's parts of the year where it's just not a good idea to spray outside because it's too humid. And then there's other parts of the year where it's just too cold, right? People will tell you, I've seen plenty of videos online of people who are like, you can spray prime. It could be, you know, 20 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. You can still spray prime. It's fine. It's totally fine. Right. But the thing is those people are spraying outside, and then they're bringing the model inside to dry. And then that model outgasses in your house, and then it still makes your house kind of smelly. You know what I mean? Which I'm trying not to do. So if you leave a model outside, like let's say you have a garage and it's 20 below, and you go out there, you spray, and then you leave it in your garage to dry and outgas, it won't. If it's really cold, it will just be tacky for a good long time. Or the other thing that happens is you get what's known as an orange peel effect, where it gets this sort of like, just think about an orange peel, not the color, but the texture. You know, it's got these little pits in it and stuff like that. It's not bumpy. It's the other way around. That's what'll happen very frequently to your paint texture on your primer texture, let's say, when it is too cold, because it dries at different rates, or what, I don't know. It's science. Yeah. So, that's kind of the problem as well. So I have to sneeze. Excuse me. So yeah, that's why I prefer to be able to prime most things indoors. The only thing I like to still prime with a rattle can, if I can, is usually plastic terrain kits, because they have a tendency to... Terrain takes a lot more wear and tear than your miniatures do. You're usually a little bit more delicate with your miniatures than you might be with terrain. And using a rattle can on plastic terrain kits that you buy, it'll stick really, really well to the plastic, and it works really well. Also, I find rattle can spraying like a single miniature feels really wasteful because you spray a lot more paint than you need to. Whereas when you use a airbrush, you can prime a single model if you just want to paint one model, and it's very simple, and it's literally drops of paint, like not very much. So for the back, do you have a tens unit? If you don't, they're a lifesaver. I don't know what a tens unit is. I don't have one, I'm pretty sure. Is that one of those like vibrating guns that does the da 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 like that? So glad I caught you live. Well, I appreciate it. That's a lot of paint. Yeah, it is a lot of paint. That is a lot of paint. Good morning from San Diego. I purchased the paint racks that you recommended in your video. Changed my life. Thank you. Oh, well, good. Yeah, those are really, really nice. I really like using those acrylic paint racks. I have flat ones that hang on the wall in the airbrush room that I can put my airbrush paints in, and then I have those other kind of, you know, stacked ones that I put in on little shelves and stuff like that, and those work really, really well. You have a bad back, and the first thing you decide to do is lug around a massive box of paint. I mean, you're not wrong. I probably it is very heavy, and so yeah, I'll have to be careful. If I didn't have 100% more paint than I already need with Pro Acryl, Citadel, speed paints, etc., I would grab that 216 piece complete set. I feel like it's a very nice set of paints, and I'm really looking forward to messing with it. But I don't think your average person is going to necessarily want to go and get the entirety of it. I feel like because they're going to have they're going to have a starter box, which is only, well, I can technically reach it. Maybe, hang on. So this starter box will be coming out also soon. I think around the same time maybe as the big box. And this has got 11 paints in it, plus also a miniature and a brush. That big box also comes with, it looks like 4 brushes in it. 3 smaller ones and a big dry brush. But yeah, so this is the starter that'll be coming out soon. And this has just got black, white, hang on. So it's black, white, brown, blue, green, yellow, red, silver, and gold, which the old one only used to, I think, have silver. And then there's also a brush-on primer in gray, and then there's also a wash, strong tone, which is basically a brown wash. And then, like I said, also a miniature and I think also a brush. Yes. So so there'll be this box. There will also be what they call the mega set, which maybe has 50 paints in it. And then there's also the most wanted set, which I think also has 50 paints in it, but they're different paints than are in the mega set. So if you bought the mega set and the most wanted set, you would have 100 paints and no duplicates, which is nice. They probably won't be selling them in stores, but I think it would be smart of them, and hopefully they do this. I don't know if they've announced if they're going to or not, but they should. They should be selling the 6 color triads in boxes, like just small little boxes where you get 6, you know, so if you want like, oh, I want all the warm grays or all the cool reds or whatever, you could just buy them in a box. That might be a thing that they only sell online. I don't think stores would want to carry a whole bunch of little 6 bottle boxes, as well as the starter, the mega, the most wanted, and then, you know, again, the complete set's not going to be something that they have available forever. All those other boxes, they will. Well, forever is a long time, but you know what I mean. Like they will be normally in stock, but I think that the complete box is something that's kind of going to be available for a while at launch. I don't think it's limited edition per se, like GW's idea of what limited edition means, but I think it's not something that's going to be around forever. So. Guten Tag from Tinley Park, Illinois. How you doing? Don't change the formula if it's working. I love Army Painter washes. Yeah, exactly. I agree. You know, it was, well, it's like they did with, you know, GW did with their washes. Nobody was like, man, this, you know, this Null Oil and Agrax Earthshade's not working for me. But they changed it anyway, and it's not great. I know there was a bunch of people out there who made videos and talked about how they liked it, and that's fine. They like what you like. But I was just like, I don't like how these work. And I was actually talking with John, Ninjon, at VinciCon, and he was like, yeah, they're real sticky and kind of gloopy and stuff. And he didn't like them either. So, you know, I'm not the only one. You can see how friendly the Discord people are. So many willing to open up their homes to host Adam's paints, as he clearly doesn't have room for them. Warms my heart here in the Christmas times. It's true. I posted a picture on the Discord, and people were like, hey, if you need me to keep some of those for you, I can do that. It's easier to find what I want. Eldar living room wall is hard to figure out. True, true. Sam's new about repping Army Painter Fanatic is super. Oh, news. Yeah, yeah. It's really stoked for him. Yeah. No, it's absolutely very cool. I asked for one of the smaller sets of the Airbrush Army Painter for Xmas. I'm going to get the Fanatics when they come out. The Army Painter paints are really, really good. I really like them. Like, because they came out before the speed paints did. I'm 90% sure. The Army Painter's airbrush paints came out, and I was like, I started messing with them, and I'm like, I really like these, because I've always liked Army Painter's line of colors for their just normal war paints, but the war paints themselves were a little hit or miss. Like sometimes you would get some that would be, these are too watery, almost. Kind of watery is not the right word. I don't know. And other ones that would be too thick. Like you kind of like to get them on the wet palette. You could get them on the wet palette and it would work and everything, but you really have to mess with them. But I loved how many different colors there were. There were like 130 different colors, and I was like, that I like. But the actual paints themselves were a little bit, you know, you had to work with them a little bit. When the airbrush paints came out, I was amazed at how like just awesome they were straight out of the bottle, and how and I loved the triad things, and I was just like, yep, that's very cool. So yeah, that was very neat. I was very glad about that. And then when the speed paints came out, I really liked the speed paints, even the initial ones. My wife is moving some stuff. But I really liked the speed paints, and I know people were like talking about the original speed paints. They were like, well, there were some reactivation issues and stuff like that, which I haven't seen the video yet, but evidently I think Dana Howell did a video just recently about using the old speed paints to make them reactivate on purpose, because she's doing like terrain painting. She's adding, I think, a bunch of, someone was telling me about it, I think on my Twitch stream. They were like, she's adding in either water or thinner, and then using the speed paints, and then putting it on like a piece of terrain, and then using a wet rag to like wipe some of it away, which gets it to reactivate anyway or whatever, because she's putting a bunch of water on there. I don't know. But it's kind of, I haven't seen the video yet. I was going to watch it yesterday. Then we watched the Barbie movie last night, which was enjoyable. I enjoyed it. But none. Yeah. So I haven't watched that yet, but I want to watch it. But the Speed Paints 2.0, they don't reactivate that I have seen at all. And they also have a longer dry time, which I like, because you don't get as much coffee staining. And they've added a whole bunch of new colors. So that's also a big benefit. So when they were like, we've made these amazing airbrush paints, we've made these amazing speed paints, I was like, that's very cool. And I was like, I really hope you guys make, new regular paints, regular opaque paints. And they have, and they've been awesome. I've been using that other group of them for quite a while, and I've been liking them a lot. They sent me the colors, not the washes and the metallics and the technicals, but the other ones. Yeah, I've been using those. They're really cool. Let's see here. Speaking of paints, the new Pro Acryl Fluorescents are excellent. I got the Noosh, which is the bottleless stuff that you use for it's like a weathering effect stuff. I've got some of it, but I haven't had a chance to use it yet. But I want to try that out. Currently adding ball bearings to my paint collection, seeing the massive you've received, and worried you'd need an engine block for the bearings to agitate that lot. Well, they all have ball bearings already in them. So that's the thing too that's interesting about the new, the speed paints, the airbrush paints, like basically everything that Army Painter makes has got agitators in it now. And I think that most people are doing that. I know that they do that with Monument. Like the only people who don't seem to be putting agitators in any of their stuff are GW. Like I'm pretty sure Reaper's been doing it for years. I don't know anything about AK Interactive. I've never used any of their paints. But yeah, pretty much everybody else I know of, the companies and stuff, the companies that I use, it's yeah, they're putting agitators in there. Game Envy have new copper coated corner weights. They're awesome. Yeah, that's what I was talking about before. That's what they are. Are they copper coated or are they copper all the way through? That I don't know, but I know that they're interesting. Are there any new games you're interested for in the new year? I guess I haven't seen any hype about new stuff. Very interested in a new game that'll be coming out in the spring, like late May, from this scrappy little company called Snarling Badger Studios. They have not announced what the game is about or what it's called yet, but you know, I'm looking forward to it. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know what. We were talking about this recently about whether or not we wanted to like let, you know, like generally Vince and I, when we do our games, we kind of like the week before it launches, like we tell people when it's coming and we'll give people some vague ideas about it as far as like, oh, it's a skirmish game, which is always pretty much going to be the case. Or it's like, you know, it's got this and it's got that and little stuff here and there. But we've been trying to decide whether or not we wanted to like, not necessarily tease more, but just like release more information about it early. And we don't know yet. We haven't decided. But yeah, so, but otherwise I don't see a lot of companies who are like, oh yeah, we're going to have this thing that's going to come out and we're going to talk about it for the next 6 months. I don't see that a ton, but then again, maybe it happens and I just don't pay enough attention. That happens too. I can understand that. It's raining and dreary here, but the pocket dimension is warm, toasty, and equipped with a good kitty. Nice. That's good to hear. Tried a bunch of, fluorescence, and then the thing moved. There we go. Tried a bunch of fluorescents. They're all super thin and transparent. Sam posted a cool picture. He sent me a text recently, I think, and it was a cool picture of a model he was painting up, and he was using the fluorescents that are in the airbrush line from Army Painter, and he was painting them with a brush, not an airbrush. And he was doing like a plasma gun on like an Imperial Guard dude, and he was using the fluorescence. And I've never thought of doing that. I've always tried to use as bright as possible blue and then some white dry brush and all that kind of stuff. But he just used some of the fluorescent paints, and it looked really good. If he was going with a not like a normal blue color, you know, like plasma gun, but more of a like a yellowy kind of orangey sort of thing. But it was pretty cool looking. Merry Christmas all and have a good day. Absolutely loosely collected. Keep them molded on my wet palette. I put a penny underneath the paper towel that holds the moisture. I've heard about that too. World War Tunes tanks? Could be. I ain't been shot, mum. Kiss me hearty. Chain of Command. Bag the Hun. And Quadrant 13 from Two Fat Lardies. I think I've heard of 2 of those. We're going to have an awesome weekend. Absolutely. Is Conflict 47 about to get an update? Maybe. I've been hearing things. I'm on the Facebook group. There's talk, and I think that it would be smart of them to do so. I think they're getting to the point where they kind of do need to do an update. I would like to see it myself. Waiting on a rules update because I heard Warlord brought Conflict 47 in-house. Yeah, like it used to be Warlord and Osprey, and I don't know what's going on with that now, but yeah. How's the new game coming along? We did some playtesting at VinciCon, as a matter of fact. So that was fun. Let me show you some pictures from VinciCon. Just a couple. So this is what I did at VinciCon. Why are there 2? That's so strange. Hang on a second here. And window. And go. All right, there we go. So, yeah, I did not paint. I don't like to paint on the road. I really only like to paint in my own house with all my stuff and have some headphones on and listen to a podcast. And that's not particularly something I can do while, you know, at somebody else's house, but I can sit and build. So, you'll see here I built my Necrons. I got my 5 Necrons with the double-barreled Gauss gun thingies or whatever. I got 3 bases of Scarabs. And then in the front row here, you've got, let's see, over on the left, you've got 4 Scavengers from Stargrave miniatures. So I just did a Why I Like It about Frostgrave and Stargrave miniatures. And yeah, that's I built 4. I built 4 of the Scavengers, and they were a lot of fun. I'm going to use them for Space Weirdos. And then the next day I built 4 more, but they weren't Scavengers. They were actual kit bashes full of all kinds of different parts. So you can kind of see a little bit more on the right side. Plus there's that guy with the red way over on the left. Those are all just different parts. There's some, there's an old school Space Marine Scout legs in there. There's some Gene Stealer cult parts. There's a little bit of the original AdMech that came with the original 2018 Kill Team starter box, where it was Gene Stealer Cult versus AdMech. So that was fun. And so I've just got a bunch of different parts in there. I don't have any good close-up pictures, particularly. This is just a picture that Vince took. And then in the back row, you will see 5 different mechs, otherwise known as HEVs, from Steel Rift. So since this picture's been taken, yesterday, like I said, while my wife was building the IKEA desk, I was texturing the bases on the HEVs and the Necron stuff. So then this afternoon / this evening, I'm going to prime all that stuff and get it ready. The Steel Rift models are just super fun to build. I really enjoy messing with them. They're great. And I already have another force that is 6 models that they're all done and painted. You might have seen them on like Instagram and stuff like that. They're bright orange with a little bit of cream, accenting and stuff like that. These guys are going to be like kind of a dirty white with some blue accents. That's the plan there. These guys are Authority is the faction, whereas the orange guys that I did are the Freelancer faction, and they are the Freelancer Industrial, which is Industrial's like the sub faction. So there's really 3 main factions in Steel Rift. There's Authority, there's Corporate, and there's Freelancer. And then they've been adding in sub factions underneath of these. So these guys are just plain old garden variety Authority, which is kind of government or whatever, military to some degree. And then the Freelancers, I don't have any regular Freelancers, but I do have the Freelancer Industrial. And the reason I got those is just because I really like the look of the models. And that's the reason I got these too, is because I really like the look of the models. So yeah, so I did that. But yeah, these guys in the back. And then this model here, that's a kit bash just made of a bunch of different parts. These 3 over here, bunch of different parts. These 4 here, these are all Scavengers from Stargrave. And then you got the Necrons in the middle there, and then some Scarabs over here and some Scarabs over there. How do I make this go to the next page? No? There we go. Now, what the painter guys were doing while I was there was they were working on these models. So they each had the same model. And again, I cannot remember the name of the company. It's been told to me several times, and it just pops out of my head each time. But the idea was they were all going to paint these models at the same time, and then, you know, it would just, you get to kind of see how each person does things differently. So way over there on the left, the red one, that one is Sam's. And he was painting her kind of like as a redhead. He was even painting in tiny little freckles and stuff like that. And a lot of, you know, she's a redhead, but she's also wearing like, you know, red clothes, but then she's got the silver armor and all that kind of stuff. The one over on the right, that one is Vince's, and he decided to make her look like almost kind of like a drowned kind of zombie lady pirate thing going on. So she's got that kind of green skin with the little tears in it and stuff like that, which are not in the model. They're just painted on to look like they're there, you know, but they're not 3-dimensional. They're just, they're all using the same model. But he's using, you know, paint effects and things like that to make it look like there's tears and things like that, which is pretty cool. And then her armor is a little bit more kind of coppery to some degree. And then the middle one is Ninjon's. Now he basically went and airbrushed it and then kind of didn't paint on it much anymore, because he was also working on the entire time we were there. He was working on a Golden Demon piece that he was working on. And I don't have the picture here, but he's been working on that. So he was spending hours and hours and hours working on, like, literally it's like a 28 millimeter dude, like a normal regular, like these are all busts that were probably from the base of the bottom of it, not the plinth, but from the bottom of the model to the top of the head is probably a good, I don't know, 4 inches maybe. But he was working on a normal 28 millimeter guy most of the time. He airbrushed this one up in the middle and then went up and did a little bit of touch up here and there and a little bit of this and that. And then, he'll finish it eventually, I'm assuming, but yeah. But they turned out really cool. I think they are really neat. And it's a very cool model as well. So, now, obviously, you can't enter this in a Golden Demon or whatever, but there's other painting competitions out there. So we could easily see them add these into who knows what kind of competition. So, yeah, it was pretty interesting, I thought. It was cool to see. And lost my chat window. Well, lost is a strong word. It's there in you. And there we go. Okay, cool. Started to paint up my 25-year-old Hero Quest box. Better late than never. Nice. Let's see. Some spray booths have filters for both particles and vapors, so better for spraying nasty chemicals. Yeah, I don't think mine does, but yeah, I think that's the case. Something is bad for you and doesn't smell, the manufacturers usually add a smell. Makes sense. Makes sense. Airbrushing things like varnish. I want to vent out my room is quite like to ensure any particles are shot out of my hobby room. Particles like ancient Greek is more fun. Gotcha. Two Fat Lardies, What a Tanker is a game that my community expressed wanting to play. Seems fun. Their rules for black powder era sharp practice is becoming very popular. Card-based priority. That's pretty cool. We did also get to play, we did some play testing of the game that'll be coming out in spring. And we also got to play a game of Tanks for the Apocalypse too, which is in Snarl, which is the zine that we put out. You can get it. It came out in early November. You can get a download for $8 on snarlingbadger.com if you go there. But inside there's a game called Tanks for the Apocalypse, which is a tank game, and that's a lot of fun. We had a good time with it. We had a 4-player game, and then there's also some add-on stuff for Rain in Hell and some add-on stuff for Space Station Zero too. But yeah, we did get to play that. It was fun. Vince won. I mean, he wrote the game, so it makes sense. Let's see. Airbrushes are just better than rattle cans. You waste so much more on overspray with rattle cans than you do with airbrushing, especially on single models or maybe just a couple models. Absolutely, for sure. I feel like I'm wasting paint and money when I'm using a rattle can on like just a single model. But on terrain, I don't mind it as much. Is getting an airbrush a good idea if I would almost only use it for priming and not fancy one or anything? Yeah. I mean, honestly, especially if you live someplace where it's just like there's times of the year where it's not a good idea to prime outside, either too humid, too rainy, too cold, whatever, too windy. Like just the ability to 11 o'clock at night, you got this model done, it's all textured and ready to go, and you're just like, you know what, I'm gonna prime it so it's ready to go and I can start painting it tomorrow when I get home from work, versus, because you wanted to let it sit for a while. I always like to let the primer cure for a while. I don't like to go from airbrush room directly to starting to paint. But yeah, that is a smart idea, I think. Like I said, a cheap airbrush will easily prime. It'll generally even do zenithal. You can usually do a white over black zenithal very easily with it too. It's when you want to get in and do stuff like what's his name? I'm gonna mispronounce it because I don't speak Spanish, but it looks like Angel Giraldez, but it's not pronounced. It's Angel Giraldez, something like that. But he's a super famous airbrush painter. Well, miniature painter, but especially like really good at airbrush stuff. So yeah, he's definitely someone who's going to paint eyes with an airbrush, and he's going to use fancy stuff. But if you're just like, I need to make this black and then make it white from above and do a zenithal, even a cheap airbrush can generally do the job. Get a TENS unit, will give you temporary relief. TENS unit uses electric pulses to... Oh, with the little sticky pad things that you put on, and then it zaps you? Okay, I think I didn't know that's what it was called. To protect terrain paint jobs, I do 2 coats of polyurethane gloss sealer and then a coat of matte polyurethane. Stuff is bulletproof. Yeah, that makes sense. Auto body filler paint can help give homemade or printed terrain more finished look. Yep, I have a tendency with like 3D printed stuff. I will definitely give it a spray, like a filler primer is what I like to use generally for 3D printed stuff. TENS unit uses electrodes to alleviate pain. I am way behind. I apologize. Let's see here. 4 months later, and still wondering why YouTube doesn't show any notifications for anything despite being subbed and notifications on and waiting for stream to start and still no notification. That's weird. That's very strange. People always tell you to hit the bell. They're always like, oh, make sure you hit the bell too. And I don't ever do that myself. I'll be honest with you. Like I like videos. I hit like, you know, and I subscribe to a lot of things and stuff like that. And I have a tendency to go through my subscriptions. That's the thing, is that if you rely completely on the like suggested, like, oh, here's what you should watch, yeah, that's when the algorithm gets all squirrely and is all like, oh yeah, no, well, you should watch this and this and this, but not the things that you actually get subscribed to. If you just go, I almost always am going to the subscribed tab first. Like if I'm going to sit down and watch some YouTube for like, I don't know, before I go to bed for like an hour or something like that, I will go to the subscribe tab first and see like of the things that I've subscribed, what's the most recent things that have come out? And you can go backwards through them and see stuff. And you are more likely to see things from people you subscribe to. But the suggested tab is squirrely. And it loves to do things where like if you happen to watch a video about something, you're like, it shows you something and you're like, oh, this is interesting. It's about living in your van, you know, and traveling around the country. Or maybe it's about, I don't know, sports bloopers or who knows what. And you watch that and then it's like, okay, cool. Now just watch a lot more of it. And it will just show, your suggested tab will just show you tons and tons and tons. You're like, oh, you like that one? How about 30 of them? Right. But during that time, stuff that you actually subscribe to is not getting put on your your suggested tab. So I always tell people, if you're going to sit down and watch some YouTube for a bit, start with your subscribe tab and watch the things that you're subscribed to, or at least scan through and look at the thumbnails and go, nope, don't care. Nope, don't. Oh, this is cool. And then, you know, that's a good way. But yeah, if you ding the bell and if you say, I want to be notified and you don't get notified, then I don't know, check your spam filter, because maybe it's, maybe the YouTube is just going into, you know, the notifications going in your spam filter. For some reason, I always get a notification to let me know that I've gone live here on my own channel. Every Sunday, I get an email as soon as I go live. It says, "Hey, you're live on your channel." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I'm here. How would I?" Anyway, so it's kind of weird. Yeah. Let's see here. Great advantage of Army Painter is availability. I will get the colors that I want from my local store when I need them. Yeah, you're not wrong. They are available all over the place. Like so many places carry Army Painter. When I was at this trade show back in September in Indiana, and I was at the booth there for, I was working with the folks from Army Painter, like helping out and stuff, and it was just a situation where, like, because it was a trade show for one of the distributors. One of the big distributors is a company called Alliance Distribution. So the people who were walking around, it wasn't a game convention, it was a trade show. So the booths were all manufacturers and publishers and junk like that. And the people who were walking up and down the aisles were not necessarily gamers. I mean, admittedly, most of them were gamers. But what they were there for is they were all either store owners or store employees, that kind of stuff. And so, like, we just kept having all these people walking up and saying, yep, I already own this rack and this rack and that rack. Like, what do you guys got coming out? You know, all kinds of stuff like that. But there were very few places that were coming up and saying, oh, I've never carried any of your stuff before, unless they were brand new. Like if they were like, I just opened my store 6 months ago, you know, I want to get your stuff. But for the most part, that's not the way, you know what I mean? It's definitely a lot of places carry Army Painter. So it is very available, which is really nice. Will they have a complete set like they did for Speed Paint 2.0? That's what this big honking box is this is the complete set. The 216, that's all of the new Fanatic paints, the opaques, the metallics, the washes, and the like technical paints like rust effects and, you know, slime and stuff like that. How long does it take to clean and set up, take down your airbrushes? It takes me 30 to 45 minutes. It's hard for me to justify airbrushing one model, so I don't feel like I'm using it enough. Gosh, for me, so I take the airbrush out of the, I have a little ultrasonic cleaner that I keep it in, which I got on Amazon for like 30 bucks, but you could just leave it in water. Like the person who taught me how to airbrush literally just left their airbrush in a jar of water, with like the back of the handle hanging out. They would take the needle out, but otherwise everything else, you know. So I take it out of there. I put it together. Doesn't take super long to put it together. There's the original. There's the cone. There's the thing that goes over the cone that screws on, and there's the tip at the end. And then you put the needle in there. You put the parts in there, the button, and screw it all together. It's not too hard. Attach it to the hose for the compressor. Put some paint in there and I can start going. Like it takes me maybe 5 minutes to put it together tops and get it ready to start painting. And then when it's time to be done, then maybe it's 10 minutes because I do try to wash it out relatively well. I'll put some airbrush cleaner in there, spray it, back pressure, all that kind of jazz, whatever. Some people swear by never taking your needle back out because they're like, if you never take your needle back out, it will never pull paint into the brush. So what they do is they take all the front stuff off, like the cone and the nozzle and all that jazz. They take that all, and then they unloosen the nut. They loosen the nut at the back, and then they pull the needle all the way through out the front. I've never done that, but you know, if it works for you, it works for you. But yeah, I made a whole video about how my airbrush doesn't clog because I keep it in water. And there was a bunch of people in the comments that are like, well, you're not supposed to do that. And I'm like, well, I've been doing it for literally almost 10 years and haven't had too much in the way of issues. So I think if you don't clean your airbrush when you're done with it, and by clean, I don't even mean like scrub it or anything. I just mean like blow some stuff through it and whatever. What I do is I keep a bottle. Like I buy cleaner in these bottles that are like, I don't know, maybe 16 ounces, maybe 20 ounces or something like that. But you could use a soda bottle, anything like that. What I do is when I want to spray it, like I'll put fluid in it, I'll put cleaner in it, and then I will just take it and spray it into the empty bottle. And then, you know, and then maybe stop and then whatever. But, you know, it's not usually, it shouldn't take you, I don't think it should take a half hour to set up or a half hour to take down. But unless you have to like go get the compressor out of the closet and bring it out here, like if you don't have a dedicated place to sort of keep it, then yes, then it can take a bit longer. But if you have to go get it all the time and set it all up, yeah, sure. But as far as like if the compressor's here and whatnot and all that kind of stuff, and you just have to put the thing together, put paint in it and go, it shouldn't take more than 5 minutes, maybe 10 max. How did the Most Wanted and the other 50 box breakdown triad wise? That's a good question. I have not seen those two boxes. I think Vince has one of them. They sent Vince either the Most Wanted or the Mega set. I don't remember which one. Just announcing what the 6 color sets are would help. So the 6 color sets are the paint families. I don't think I have. Let's see here if I can't make this work real quick. Oh, look what's new with Chrome. Don't care. Oh, Gesundheit. The Army Painter website. And we'll just, there we go. Okay, cool. So they do have a thing that shows, here we go. Okay. So this, if they do produce them in little 6 color boxes or something like that, that they would sell, again, whether you get them in a store or you only buy them online, they would be, they would be like here, you've got like night sky to frost blue. That would be one box. Because if you look if you look at, let's say, Wolf Gray, it will show you, hey, these are the other colors, and this one is the 3rd out of 6. Because each of the bottles shows you, they have this little thing here, which you can't really see, but it's like a thing that says, hey, this is the color range, and this is where this one sits in that color range. So
each of these little chunks, like you from matte black to brigade gray, or from gray castle to matte white, or from night sky to frost blue, or from deep ocean blue to aegis aqua, or, you know, all these different things. Each of these is one of the color families. Angel green to ferocious green, molten lava to inner light. You know, that's the way they've got them all set up. Then they have this lower part here, which is they've got some of the new, they've got some fluorescence in there. They've got some technical stuff like dry blood and dark rust and oozing vomit. That sounds terrible. They've got some matte varnish, gloss varnish, war paints retarder, war paints stabilizer, and then they've got all these metallics along here, and then down here it's all washes. So if you go to the armypainter.com/fanatic, you can see all these colors, and each of the color families is basically, each of these lines you can kind of see where it starts dark and goes to light. You know, dusty skull to pale sand. You know, moonstone skin to pearl skin, I think is what it says there. You know, that kind of stuff. So those are the, probably, if they do sell them in 6s, they'll be like that. But these will also be available in stores eventually, where you could just go through, I just want Eternal, Hunt, and Wild Green. Boom, boom. You know what I mean? Now, the benefit of having them again in these families is that, you know, that if you like, the issue you can get sometimes is you go, I want a dark blue, a light blue, and then a really light blue, because I'm going to do some fancy effects or whatever. I'm going to do like 2 of those colors will be airbrush. I'll do the dark blue first, and then I'll zenithal from above with light blue, and then I'll use the really light blue to be edge highlight. But if they're not all the same hue, which is a technical term within art color stuff, if they're not the same hue, then you might have like a very kind of blue-green, and then you might also have another type of blue that's heading more towards a warmer, not really warmer blue, but like, it's kind of hard to explain. On a color wheel, you know, you have a color, but there's colors on either side of it. So you might have, you know, red, but there's like a red that heads a little bit more towards purple, which is getting into cool, and a red that heads a little bit more towards orange, which is a warmer orange, or warmer red. So if you have like a couple colors that are like a little bit warmer red, and then there's a cool red, it can look weird if you try to use them as like a gradient. So you want the colors to match when you're doing a gradient. Reaper's been doing triads for a long time. Like, here's the base color, here's the mid color, and here's the high color. Same with the airbrush paints as well from Army Painter. These now are, you know, you have, instead of being 3, there's 6. So you could technically go, you know, resplendent red, angelic red, and legendary red. Or you could go sacred scarlet, violent vermilion, and raging rouge. Or you could go legendary red, scarlet, you know, whatever. So you have a lot of different little 3, if you want to get like real specific. If you wanted to go real dark and then a lighter one and a lighter one, you could do that too. But as long as they're all within the same family here, this kind of line, whatever one of these is, evergreen fog to mossy green, as long as they're within that line, you know the colors kind of are all the same color, and they're not shifting and getting either more warm or more cool. They're staying in the same hue. It's, again, like I said, kind of a technical term. It's stuff that I remember from going to school for art back in the day. All right, so I need to click on you, and I need to click on you. The other benefit to once I get the get into the sunroom and all that kind of stuff is I'll have 2 monitors, so that'll be nice too. Let's see here. Let's see. Good evening from the Philippines, painting Ahsoka Tano for Star Wars Shatterpoint. Nice. Love the idea of triad colors. I suck at mixing paint. I never mix enough, and it's hard for me personally to lighten and darken colors. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you would think that, oh, you just add black to it to make it darker, and you just add white to it to make it lighter. Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. If you add white to red to make a lighter red, that's pink, and that doesn't look right. More often than not, you actually want to start heading a little bit more towards orange for the highlight for red, and, you know, otherwise it goes pink, and then that's the whole thing. So they've taken care of all of that for you. You know, that's, again, like, that's the idea behind triads, paint families, stuff like that. Gesundheit, that's the way to do it. Hope they continue with the actual description of color on the bottle as well as the name. Yes, they are. It's yeah, I can't remember. It's on the side. So this one like here says demonic yellow, but if I don't have it open yet, but on the side it also says specifically something that's more, I don't want to say generic, but it's not like a fancy name like demonic yellow, but it'll be like you know, pale yellow or pale warm yellow or whatever. I don't know. They've got their own terminology that they put next to it, but it makes a lot of sense. Do they say on the back? They don't, but I know that that's what they're doing with the new ones. And they've done the same with speed paints too. They give you like a name like Maze Yellow or whatever, but then they also tell you what it is too. New army paints are quite glossy though, are they not? I haven't found that to be the case. With the fanatic paints that I've been using for the last, at this point now, 3 months, I haven't found them to be very glossy. I feel like, especially washes, if you don't shake them well enough, like there have been times I've just picked up a wash, put some drops in my little fidget, you know, popper thing, and then put it on there and painted it and been like, oh, I didn't shake that. Because if you don't shake their washes, and other companies' washes sometimes too, they will be glossy. But if you shake them even a normal amount, then they generally aren't. But that's what I've found. Secondly, I know that like high-end painters are very interested in like what the overall like finish is when it's done. But for me, I don't personally, I'm going to throw a varnish over it at the end anyway, because I want to protect it because it's a gaming piece. So for me, if I've had people tell me like, oh, the finish on this is satin, or the finish on this is this, or the finish on this is that, and I don't like it for painting, that's totally valid. That's fine. But for me, I could do stuff that's got gloss and varnish, you know, that is, or gloss and matte and satin and whatever, but at the end I'm going to throw a matte varnish over it anyway and kind of nuke it with that so that everything's flat, because that's how I like it. I may go back and gloss up something like icky drippy bits, you know, like on a Nurgle guy or something like that, but I would do that with a brush anyway. So have you ever used gold leaf on a miniature? I haven't, no. Thinking of a full leaf Custodes army, but having problems finding any video. Yeah, no, I would think that would be really hard. Like, because usually gold leaf is put on a flat stuff, but with stuff with a lot of texture, I would think it would be hard to get it to work. It'd be interesting, though. You have to make sure someone wouldn't steal your Custodes, though. Let's see here. Are you looking forward to fantasy coming back? Do you think that they're going to push the time to release, then rush it, and it's going to be a huge mess? I'm not interested in fantasy. Like, when I say fantasy, I mean with a capital F. Warhammer Fantasy, aka the Old World. That's not for me, but it's partially because I'm not a rank and flank kind of guy. I didn't like the square bases back in the day. I was always interested in the models, and I was like, this would be a cool game to get into, but I don't want to play rank and flank. You know what I mean? I'm not into that. I want to just be like, you know, and so when Age of Sigmar came out, I was like, there we go. Cool. Round bases, not moving them in like rectangular blocks, that kind of stuff. It's the reason why I'm not into, Kings of War. I'm not into Conquest, Last Argument of Kings, that kind of stuff. I think it's real smart of Conquest to make those bases round and then put them into the trays, because A, it allows you to adjust them so that the guys with a spear is not poking somebody else in the butt. You can kind of turn it. That's a smart move. I think that they should have done that with the new Old World, but, you know, they didn't ask. Secondly, the benefit is that now you have these models and they're still on round bases, so you can use them for other stuff, including Conquest's own game, which is a skirmish. Well, it's not skirmish. It's a little bit more like Age of Sigmar, but it's not rank and flank, and it's called First Blood. So that was a smart move on their part. Honestly, yeah, but I don't know. So many of the models are going to be old models for the Old World. Like, just, I don't know if they're even making new molds from the old files, or if they're just straight up using the old molds. But there's going to be a lot of old stuff in those Old World things. You know, there's some stuff that's new. There's definitely some stuff that they've made new things and resculpted or whatever. That's cool. They've showed that stuff off. But if you've seen that leak that just came out a little while ago, where they showed like the front and the back box for the, I think, the Tomb Kings, most of the stuff in that box is 25 years old. You know what I mean? They're old sculpts. Well, maybe not 25, but at least 20. So, I don't know. I'm just, Now, that being said, I wouldn't mind getting some of the old Tomb King skeletons again, just because I like them. I don't like to paint them up as Tomb Kings. I paint them up kind of like in much more muted colors. I don't go with the blue and gold and all that stuff, but and I don't usually use the weird funny helmet heads and stuff, but I've got a whole bunch of older skeletons that I do like to use for stuff, and they are Tomb Kings because they got the big tower shields and stuff like that. But if you paint them with like more muted colors, they don't look as much like Tomb Kings. But the normal base skeletons, I just like putting them on round bases, that's all. Let's see here. I hope they redo the airbrush metallics with aluminum. Yeah, that would be something to see. I'll be interested to see how the new ones work. The new regular ones that are in this box. Because yeah, that most metallics are using little tiny flecks of not metal, but little tiny flecks of this stuff called mica, which is a mineral, I guess. The new paints, the new speed paints that are metallic don't use mica. The speed paints, not the ones in this box, but the regular, like the speed paints, the 2.0s, the metallic speed paints are using aluminum powder. And I think that these paints are using aluminum powder as well. And it would be interesting to see if they would change that with the airbrush stuff too. Yeah. Not seen Barbie yet. I just got around to watching Oppenheimer the other day. That's a good film. Nice. Danny was using the new Monument Hobbies Noosh medium with those paints. Oh, she was using Noosh and Speed Paint 1.0? Interesting. I'll have to check that out. I didn't watch the video, but someone told me about it. An itchy, or like whatever this little divot is here, it's itchy right now. Something that lasts my old Tyranids, I can justify buying some of the new ones. Oh, everything moved. There we go, Barbie. Okay. Let's see here. Won't gold leaf be prohibitively expensive as opposed to just priming them retribution armor? I mean, depends on how many you're going to do, but yeah, I mean, I could see that being expensive. I've got racks of Vallejo paints, so can't justify wholesale switch to Army Painter stuff, much as I would like to. Saw Lila's video on Noosh. Seems a lot like a product looking for a reason to exist. I don't know. I think that if you're not into oil washes or enamel, it makes sense. I watched her video as well about Noosh, and it didn't turn out... So, like, I've watched 3 videos. On the Monument site, I watched Jordan's video, where I think he used a Battletech mech. I think. He put it on really thick, and he wanted it to look like mud, I feel. And it did, but it looked real chunky and thick. Like, it was put on, and it was really, like, caking up the, like, joints and stuff like that. And I was like, huh, well, that's... I mean, that's cool if you're looking for, like, I want to make something look caked in mud. But that's what it looked like to me, at least in that video. But then I watched Jason's video later where he was working on, like, a Contemptor Dreadnought. And that looked really, really good. So I was like, okay, I'm on board. This is cool. I like this stuff. And then I watched Lila's video, and it was like... I think it was more her color choices. She was painting like an Assault Primaris Marine, and she painted him like a olive drab kind of army color, but then used a lighter color for the wash, which looked a little weird. She went through and did a couple different colors, actually, if I remember correctly. But for me, I would always think of doing it with a darker color. Like, I want to try to see if it will work well for a like a replacement for streaking grime. So that's what I want to see. So I wouldn't use a lighter color unless, I guess, if you were doing something where it's supposed to look wintry or dusty, that's a different story. But for the most part, yeah, I want to check and see how it works with a slightly darker color than whatever the thing is. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I got a bottle of it and I'm interested in checking it out, but I haven't had a chance yet. With Sci-Fi Undaunted on the way? Oh, I didn't know they were making a Sci-Fi Undaunted. The only Undaunted I'm familiar with is the World War II one. That's kind of cool. Back in the day, Reaper Mini used to have stainless steel skulls for agitators. Were they stainless steel? Wow. I think that'd be expensive. Make tiny little stainless steel skulls. It's neat, though. Very interested in Hobgoblin. It's the first time I've been this excited about a rank and flank game. You can use whatever minis you want. Oh, that's from the guy who does Car Wars. Mike Hutchinson, I think. I think it's Mike Hutchinson is the designer on that. Yeah, and the artwork is really cool too because it's by this guy named Crom, if I remember correctly, who is a tattoo artist but also like a cartoonist. He's done some stuff for Dark Horse Comics, which I think is really interesting. He's got a book called Bird King, which I think is neat. Yeah, I remember seeing that he had a booth for Hobgoblin at Adepticon, and I was... What the heck? Oh. These two women just walked by. Younger women just walked by in old-timey dress. Like bonnets and long dresses and the whole deal. And I think they must be in the madrigals. They must be like in the madrigal thing. Because I'm like, it's like a choir. And do they play bells and madrigals a lot?
For chords.
Yeah, sometimes they play bells too. Anyway, because I'm just like, who are these? Was there a time slip? What's going on? Anyway, and they were going in the house across the street, so they must be coming back from a thing. All right. Anyway, that was I just talking about? Oh yeah, Hobgoblin. Yeah, I would be interested, except for the fact that it's rank and flank, and I'm just not into that play style. I'm not saying it's bad; it's just not for me. You know what I mean? Like some people don't like skirmish games. Some people don't like, people don't like things that they don't like, and that's fine. Personally, I like your hype/release style. Yeah, I mean, we've thought about changing it, but I don't know. The question is, are we thinking about changing it just for the sake of changing it? Or are we thinking about changing it because it would help? And I don't know. I mean, and how much help do we need? I don't know. I mean, it's not like we're not taking over the world, but sometimes you like go, well, if we change this, would it make things better? I guess is more the situation that we're looking at. GW announced the old Warhammer back in 2019. Talk about teasing. Yeah, exactly. The old world has been like gonna come out for a good long time, but they told us, I swear to God, early on they were like, it might be 4 years, and people were like, no, and I'm like, well, now it's 2023 and it's still not out yet, so yeah. I find that Citadel colors tend to turn darker after some time. Something tells me that not even their paints are good. Wouldn't be surprised if they just rebranded Apple Barrel. I wouldn't say they're rebranded Apple Barrel, but they're very thick. And those pots suck because they do. Part of the reason they might get darker over time, are you talking about in the pot or on the thing that you paint? Because pretty much all acrylic paint, when it dries, will get darker. But that's like an early on thing. Like you paint it on there and you're like, oh, that's a little too light. Well, wait a bit and it will get darker. If you paint it on and you're like, that's perfect. Well, I've got some bad news. It's going to get a little darker as it dries. It's just a thing called drying down. Acrylic paints in general have a tendency to do that. They get a little bit darker as they dry. It's just physics, I think, or chemistry, something like that. Nonetheless, but if you're talking about it gets darker in the bottle over time, that's a different story altogether. And again, that could be just drying down in the bottle. Like if it starts to get chunkier and thicker and stuff like that, I don't know. But yeah, I have stopped using pretty much all Citadel stuff just because those pots just, they worked my last nerve. And eventually I was just like, nope, I'm not using them anymore. Like I went to grab some Skeleton Horde, the contrast paint, and the pot, like it wouldn't close properly anymore because it'd been dripping down in there. And then and someone on stream was like, oh, well, you should just use a screwdriver and just get that out. And I'm like, I'm supposed to do this with every single bottle that I own, every single pot that I own. My job is to go through and now scrape this stuff out versus their job to fix it so that that doesn't happen. Like they could make it not happen. They used to make pots that didn't do that, but they don't anymore. So in my mind, this is like a planned obsolescence thing. If we make it so that the pot doesn't close properly anymore over time, then you need to buy another pot. And again, I don't know if they're doing it on purpose, but it does happen. So yeah, it's one of those things where I'm just like, I don't want to mess with that anymore. And so I've stopped using their stuff. I pretty much just want things in dropper bottles. You can do rumor engine style posts for your new game, a vague picture once a week for a month. I mean, I don't know what the picture would be. Like we've done that. We usually do a run up the week before where we kind of have stuff on Twitch and Instagram and places like that. And they're pictures that do, if you go back later on and look at them, you go, oh, okay. Like for Majestic 13, we had a lot of like graffiti that I photoshopped onto like buildings and pictures that I took and stuff like that of the different factions from Majestic 13. So you'd look at it and go, huh, I don't know what that's about, you know, and not even all graffiti. Like one of them was I found a stock photo of like a farmer's field that had one of those little signs in it to show, oh, this is, because like farmers sometimes will be like, okay, this area here was done with this particular type of pesticide. And then that way, you know, this is area, and then they kind of almost do it for testing to go, well, let's remember that this is this, and this is this, and this is this, and then see what the yield looks like and all that kind of junk. So sometimes you'll see these like fancy signs in the front of a section of field, and it will have like a logo on it from like the manufacturer or whatever, so that you know, oh yeah, this is the area. So I found a picture like that, and then I just took off the whatever manufacturer logo, and I just put on there the Ag Council or whatever. I forget exactly the name of the, and I don't have a copy of it within arm's reach, but whatever the farmers faction is in in Majestic 13 is the Agricultural League. I think it's the Agricultural League, but yeah. So, you know, and then we showed that picture and then put it out there and stuff. So yeah, it's a whole thing. As a person that rides motorcycles, the build up for 6 months loses people's attention and will spend money on what they already know. I'm not sure how the first part of that, as a person who rides motorcycles, the build up for 6 months loses people's attention. I don't understand the motorcycle thing and the 6 month thing. Do people tease, like, do manufacturers say, hey, we got this motorcycle coming out in 6 months? Like a lot? Is that like, I don't get the first part of that sentence and attached to the other part of the sentence. But maybe if that's what you mean, if motorcycle manufacturers always tease things for like a super long time, then I get it. But otherwise, yeah, sorry. Did you use Fanatic's colors via airbrush? I haven't. No, I have only ever used them on my wet palette. They work great on the wet palette, but I have not fired them through my airbrush yet. Because I use the airbrush colors through my airbrush. You would for sure you would probably have to thin the Fanatic colors a bit to get them to go through an airbrush. They're not thick, but they're, in my opinion, slightly too thick for airbrush without thinning. Whereas the air paint colors just I just drop it directly into the reservoir and don't have to add any thinner or anything. I was surprised Pro Curl didn't have a blue with their new fluorescent paints. I thought they did. I could have swore there was a fluorescent blue. I could be wrong. I'm working on my Hobgoblin Fantasy Battles army. Nice. Head of Warlord Games was on the painting phase and said Conflict 47 is a new writer and we'll see a new update soon. Oh, cool. For airbrush, I really like the Ultra 24. The no paint before air is great, and the paint limiters are helpful as well. Is that from Harder and Steenbeck? I have not seen that brush. Vallejo Fluorescent Blue hasn't been giving me great results. Toronto, how you doing there, Blue 9? Fluoro paints tend to have less coverage. Painting over a white helps. Yeah, like whenever I'm going to be using some of the fluorescent paints from the Army Painter airline. I'm going to be using some of the green on my Necrons to finish them up. But my plan is to spray white first, and then I'll either use the fluoride. I'll either use the fluorescent over the white, or I might just use a real bright speed paint over the white. You know what I mean? Like, there are fluorescent air paints, but I might do something different. Just, I don't know. I'm not sure yet. I have no issues painting away from home. Quite enjoyed the change in surroundings. Yeah, no, I for painting, I'm very specific. Again, I can build anywhere, but painting, I'm very specific. Spotted Vince's immediately loves that color scheme. It's true. Yeah, it's true. Sam's paint really emphasizes the smirk on her face. Yeah, no, it's a really cool model too. They all did great work on them. Nothing like a new lamp on the painting desk to show you how much you missed with the primer. Yes, that's also true too. The other issue I find is that the lights that are in my airbrush hood are much brighter than just anything else. So when I'm in that, I look at it and I go, okay, but then as soon as I take it out of the hood, I'm like, oh, and I can see the difference quite a bit. And so I have to start keeping that in mind to constantly take the thing out and look at it in normal room light and then put it back in there. But yeah. Once in a while, I end up painting my brother-in-law's place using all his paints. Well, I mean, if you're using somebody else's paints, I mean, that's a different story. I'll take your advice and try to really rinse my brush to make sure there is no soap in it and give it a shot. Yeah. On the stream by checking my sub tab. Nice. Seems like YouTube futzes with the algorithm then when odd political stuff is going on too. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I was just at a big game store in Austin last night. They carry GW, Reaper, Too Thin Coats, Turbo Dork, and D&D prismatic paints. Oddly enough, no Army Painter. Weird. That is strange. D&D prismatic paints. Wow, I've never seen anybody carry that. Turbo Dork definitely makes sense now because I think Turbo Dork is based out of Austin, I think. I think they're in Texas for sure, so it would make sense. I was in Joann Fabrics last night getting some last-minute gift sewing supplies and saw an all-game terrain display of static grass, tufts, basing materials, etc. Looks like they finally caught on. Huh. I've not come across that. Although I haven't been at our local Joann Fabrics in a while. That said, I do want to try. I've been looking to get a fan brush. I saw a cool video about using fan brushes, and I kind of want to try to do that. But I think I'll have to look at a place like that. Or, well, there's an art supply place downtown. I can maybe trek there too. Army Painter has slipped past Reaper paints and is neck and neck with Vallejo as hobby store staple in my area. Wow, that's cool. I always pull the needle out through the front, my airbrush, and many of them have gaskets to prevent paint from going back into the body. Gotcha. To a video where you blindfold, disassemble, clean, and reassemble your airbrush like they do with guns. Make it a contest at the next VinciCon. I would poke myself really hard with a needle, I think, and that would be bad. Or I'd bend it. You don't want to bend the needle either. So the tip, it's very bad. Do you have any experience playing Weird War historical war games? Any recommendations? My favorite was Dust Warfare. I really enjoyed Dust Warfare. That was a lot of fun. And then Fantasy Flight sold it to Battlefront / Gale Force 9. And then there was a bunch of weird stuff that happened. And everything went to crap. So that's a bummer. But Conflict 47, I think, would also be a lot of fun. Like I said, I own some of the models and things like that. And Conflict 47 is basically 5th edition 40K. Except that it has alternate, well, you reach into the bag to pull out the tokens to figure out which, who gets to move a unit. So it's not I do all of my junk and you do all of your junk, but there's a lot to it, both Bolt Action and Conflict 47, where I'm like listening, like I've watched battle reports and I'm like, oh yeah, I see. Yeah. There's a lot to it that I'm like, that's kind of like 40K 5th edition specifically. But yeah. Tried leaving my airbrush in water like that. It started corroding. See, that doesn't, because airbrushes are predominantly all made out of brass. And then they might have a chrome cover, but they're generally brass. So they shouldn't corrode? That's weird. Building models now for Osprey, World War I Weird War. That's hard to say. A War Transformed. I've seen the cover for that on Wargame Vault, and I did not pull the trigger, but it's interested. I'm interested. War Transformed is more magic based. Conflict 47 more technology based. I think that's why I think I would like Conflict 47 more. There's mechs in it, for God's sakes, sort of. Vertical monitors rock? I don't plan on having a vertical monitor, but I at least have 2 monitors. I only have one smallish kind of monitor right now here. It's not historical, but Sludge is good. Sludge is also rank and flank, I believe, correct? I could be wrong. I know that Turnip 28 can be rank and flank, but doesn't have to be, which I think is also an interesting kind of rule set situation. If you move to the Sunroom, we may never see Nick again. Not sure how I feel about that. Well, I mean, he can always visit. Irritated that I will likely end up owning a Fanatic color range as well because I already have too much paint. I mean, but can you have too much paint? That's the question, Like, what happens if you decided to not buy any more paint anymore? Then if you have a whole bunch of paint, you don't have to buy any more paint for a long time. Sad to see what happened with Privateer Press. I think War Machine is very death now. I think that they're still okay, but I don't know that they're not nearly as okay as they used to be. I would like to know how their new manufacturing is going, because they've basically switched over, at least with the Warjacks and stuff like that, they've switched over to doing it all 3D printed. And it not like you buy the STL and print it yourself, but like they print them and then ship you the printed stuff. Kind of like Steel Rift does. Those are also 3D printed models that you don't print them yourself. The upside to doing that for a company like Privateer Press for War Machine is that you could very easily, well, they can very easily, rather than printing them in the United States and then shipping you to them in the UK, they could print them in the UK and then ship them to you in the UK, and that would be way easier. Part of what it was explained to me at Gen Con a couple years ago, the reason they're doing this is partly because then they don't have to ship stuff. Like, they were getting a lot of their stuff produced in China, shipped to America, and then shipped from America to distributors all over the place, and it was a whole thing. Now they can get them produced in the countries or nearer to the countries that they want to ship them to. You know, Europe/UK, US, Canada, blah, 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 Australia, you know, whatever. If they could find a partner to work with in Australia, then those Warjacks you might buy in Australia are printed in Australia, or you know, maybe New Zealand or whatever, in that area of the world. And then it's just easier than getting them shipped across the whole stupid planet. So, yeah, I can totally understand that. That makes a lot of sense. That all being said, you know, hard to see if it's going to actually occur or not, and whether people will be interested in playing or not. That's the other thing too. Oh, it moved again. Well, there we go. Retribution armor is $33 per can. Gold may be cheaper. You're not wrong. You are not wrong. Let's see here. I wish Age of Sigmar would hurry up and come out with Chaos Dwarves, maybe in 4th edition, which will probably come out this summer. Bought a couple of those small-scale Bandai Razor Crest ships to kit bash and drop ship VTOLs for one of my rule sets. Couldn't resist. I can see that, sure. Zorp just did a video with Weta. That makes sense. He lives over there. Putting gold leaf on a Space Marine statue. Oh, that's kind of cool. Tomb King's box is an atrocity. I don't know why it's an atrocity. Why is that? What mini or project are you most excited about starting next? Probably I'm very excited in painting my Steel Rift models, the ones that I showed you a little bit earlier, the ones that I built at VinciCon. I'm very interested in getting those painted because then I'll have 2 forces, and then after that I'll get the terrain finished, which it's all primed. So I'll just kind of paint up the terrain hopefully quickly and then be able to start playing, which would be great because I haven't played since the demo that I got at Nova. But I'm looking forward to that. Played a game of Kings of War the first time at HGMS Fall-In convention back in November. It was fun, and with the multi-basing aspect, you can build small dioramas and push them around. That is a cool thing about Kings of War, is that, yeah, you're not peeling off models as you take damage. You are keeping track of it with like a die or something like that. But the models, like, yeah, you literally can make tiny little dioramas. And they have, I believe, they have like, okay, look, this is a unit of 20, but the minimum you have to put on here to identify that is, I don't know, 12 or something like that. So you don't even have to have the full amount of models, which is also nice, so that you can, like, you know, as I've seen people pushing around stuff for Kings of War, that there's like a tree or there's shrubs and stuff, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. And that's, I think, a really cool concept if you're into that style of play. I didn't think the Noosh looked even vaguely close to enamels in Lila's video. I think it's going to be a hard thing to do. And again, I think that also because she used a lighter color, it didn't come across the same either. I thought Noosh was some kind of energy drink. You probably shouldn't drink it, is my point, but yes. What has been your experience with the Army Painter's Fanatic paint? Do you think they are really as good as promoted? Oh yeah, no, I've been using them for, like I said, I've been using them for, at this point now, 3 months. They have been my go-to opaque paint. And yeah, they work great on a wet palette because that's where I generally work with wet palette. And in comparison to, like, they don't separate like some paints do, even their own previous paints. The war paints would separate sometimes pretty quick. I've noticed that Vallejo can separate kind of quick. Monument can even sometimes. Monument can be a little weird on a wet palette. But yeah, no, I've been super impressed with Army Painter stuff. The Fanatic line, they're very creamy. There's none of that extra fluid in there that you used to get with the old war paints, what we used to call the ketchup water. Like, basically the war paint, the old war paints, when you bought a new bottle, the first thing you did was do not shake it. The first thing you do is you unscrew the cap and you squirt out this clear fluid that's in there until just bubbles come out. And then you close the cap and then you shake it really good. And then from that point on, they would be pretty good. And I would see people all the time who are like, Army Painter paints are so thin. And I'm like, you didn't squirt out the ketchup water at the beginning. That's the problem. And they would tell you to do that, but they don't put it on the bottles. If they would have put it on the bottles and said, look, this is step 1, do this, step 2, do this, then that before you start painting, it would have been a really good idea. Now, the other downside is that sometimes just out of just practice, like just something I've been doing, it's muscle memory, I would pick up a brand new bottle of like Army Painter that I'd never opened before, and the first thing I would do is shake it. Well, now you've basically shook all the extra fluid, the extra medium, the ketchup water, you've shook it into the paint and mixed it all together, and you've made the paint very thin. So now you have to wait for it to separate, which can take, I don't know, probably a day or something like that. So, you know, you had to become very, when I was using them, I had to become very cognizant of the fact that if I had a brand new bottle, I would have to pick it up, squirt out that stuff, and then what I would do is I would mark the bottle by putting some of the color on the cap. So I would know the ones that I've already done that process to. If I picked up a bottle that would just had like a normal white cap that had nothing going on, then I'd be like, okay, I have to be careful and I have to squirt out the stuff and then shake it and then, you know, put some paint on it, and now I'd know that this has already been done. With the new Fanatic paints, none of that is necessary anymore. It's a totally different chemical stuff. They're using a stabilizer in there that doesn't require this extra medium. The extra medium that they put in there to kind of protect the paint in the travels over from Denmark, from what I understand. But again, they've been using that same formulation for 15 years. So this is a very different thing. There's been a lot of different changes in chemical science and all kinds of paint stuff and whatever. And like their videos are much more explaining what's going on there. But yeah, I've been nothing but impressed with all the Fanatics. And like I said, 3 months ago, they sent me basically, it's like this box, but they were all, you know, hand labeled. They were just like a white label with black type on them. And it was not any of the metallics or the washes or the technicals. It was just all the regular paints, 162 colors or something like that. And that's all I've been using for the last, like I said, almost 3 months, I think, at this point. The Reaper paint shaker skulls were pewter. That would make more sense than being stainless steel. I could see that. Just picked up 5 leagues for the Borderlands. Any folks have suggestions for models to use? I would probably tell you to use, go try to find yourself some Stargrave models. They would be great. Reaper does have some sci-fi stuff that would be pretty cool. A lot of their sci-fi stuff seems to be sculpted by Bobby Jackson, and I always like his work. But yeah, I would take a look at something like that. Old-timey dress. I thought you said old tiny dress, and I thought they must be cold. Well, they would have been. No, this was old-timey. Personally looking forward to checking out Mantic's epic game next year. Cost of legions, especially at 3,000 points, is crazy with Mantic. You'll have a variety of... Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, epic in that, like, you know, epic scale. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, Warpath. That's their new... They're turning Warpath into a... Is it 6mm, 8mm, 10mm? Something like that. Real small scale. Well, that's pretty cool. Don't rely on those YouTube notifications. Set an alarm on your phone. It's the pro strat. I think you're right. I set alarms on my phone all the time for stuff like that. I had bought some Thunderbolts on Impulse in 2019 and got a box of Marauder Destroyers last week. Got the Knights Sorastis Lancers. That's pretty cool. GW didn't even decide what they were doing for Old World until about a year ago. The initial announcement was just to undermine the new edition of Kings of War launch. Do you think that's the case? Because I gotta be honest, like, I really wouldn't think that GW would care about Mantic. Like, GW is so much further ahead of everybody else. There's like no reason for them to worry about Mantic, Privateer Press, Warlord, like any of those other companies. I don't know. I guess it's possible, but yeah, I would just, in my mind, it's like, I would just think that they would be like, whatever, dude. Yeah, you guys sell your games. It's great. We sell, you know, that times 10 or whatever. But I guess it's possible. And I don't know that. I think that it would be a bad scene for you to go, yeah, but we're coming out with a game that's much like this that you'll probably prefer in 4 or 5 years. Like, then I'd be like, yeah, I guess I'm going to get this one though, because it's available now. You know, I mean, that seems strange. That's really weird. I don't know. Games Workshop is a weird company. That is true. I want some micro scale minis available in Australia. I don't want to collect a new scale again. You know, there was a hot second where I was like, maybe I'm interested in this Legion Imperialis. And then I thought, no, I don't think so. Like, the rules seemed interesting. I watched Ash from Guerrilla Miniature Games. I watched his battle report, and the rules seemed interesting because they were doing some things that GW hasn't done before. One of the things was they were having actual alternating activation. Now, it was still phased activation, and what I mean by that is they were like, okay, now it's the movement phase, but then I would activate a unit. I would move a unit, and then you would move a unit, and then I would move a unit, and then you would move a unit, which in an army-style game, they have not done that they've not really done that at all. 40K, it's still, I do all of my stuff, and then you sit there and have a sandwich, and then you do all of your stuff, and then I have a sandwich. Maybe we eat the same sandwich. I don't know. You know, go halvesies. Why not? Age of Sigmar is the same way, except that at the beginning of every turn, it's not alternating back and forth. At the beginning of the turn, you roll to see who gets to go first and who gets to go second, and then you do it again next turn, and you do it again next turn, and stuff like that, which some people don't like. I think it's fine. But the whole concept of, like, I do something with one of my units, and then you do something with one of your units, like, that's the way I generally prefer to play, and they just kind of don't do that, except, like, you see that in Warcry, you see it in, like, Kill Team, I believe. Probably Necromunda even. I haven't played Necromunda in a minute. But yeah, in their bigger army games, you don't. And in this, that's how it works. Except, like I said, there's the movement phase. So there's alternating activation for movement. And then during the fighting phase, then it's, you know, activating again there, alternating that way. So it's an interesting thing that they've done. They've moved in an interesting direction there. And so I was kind of interested. But then I remember, like, the starter box sold out in 60 seconds. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm not going to do that. So it would be fun to paint tiny tanks, but I got plenty of other stuff to play, so I'm good. There's an episode of the painting phase with one of the previous GW product managers that laid out a lot of reasoning behind their bunk logic. I gotta say, that painting phase podcast is getting a lot of mileage out of talking to people who used to work for GW to find out, like, why they do what they do. That is interesting. You got it perfectly. Oh, so the motorcycle industry does a lot of, like, hey, we're going to tell you something 6 months out. Gotcha. I mean, video games do that too, for sure. Like, you hear about a video game 2 years before it comes. I mean, look at the Old World. They told us about the Old World 4+ years ago. No fluorescent blue in the Pro Acryl line. Huh. I thought there was. I know, because there's a magenta, there's a yellow, there's a green, there's a pink. Or is there a magenta and a pink? No. That's so strange. Monument couldn't find a fluorescent blue that they liked. Oh, well, that could be. Yeah, I can see that. Do you think it's feasible to use an airbrush in an apartment? Won't be able to set up a fume hood or anything like that. Homeownership is in my near future, so I'm not sure if I should get one. Honestly, like, you could either make a little hood out of a cardboard box and, like, a filter from the hardware store, like a furnace filter and a fan. And either, like, if you were super concerned about it, you could blow it outside, but a good furnace filter will catch most of the particulates, so you won't have to worry about it. But yeah, there are videos out there about how to make your own airbrush hood out of a cardboard box and a fan and a filter. And it's not particularly hard. And then, you know, but if you wanted something, if you had to set it up and take it down a lot and you wanted something that was smaller and kind of portable, if you save up some money, you can get these ones on Amazon, which fold up like a little suitcase, and they are usually around 120, 130 bucks max, but they're real nice. So that's a possibility as well. Yeah. Irregulars is next Saturday? Yes. Yep. Irregulars is this upcoming Saturday. I like a dark ivory than a titanium white undercoat for my fluoros. It gives a nice gradient. Oh, interesting. I hadn't thought of that. Wonder if fluorescent paint would look good as lava in Rain and Hail minis? Oh, yeah, for sure. Oops, everything moved again. Anxiously waiting for the new edition of Don't Look Back to arrive today, refreshing the tracking page like every 5 minutes. Nice. I feel like GW doesn't see anybody else's competition. Yeah, I kind of do too. If I had to pick one studio from 5 leagues, it would be Bestarium, as they have been doing 2 releases a month lately, which is just enough for... wait, were you saying 5 parsecs from home or 5 leagues from the Borderlands? If it was 5 leagues for the Borderlands, that's the fantasy one, and that would be either the Frostgrave miniatures, but Bestarium would work really well for that too. For some reason in my head, I thought 5 parsecs from home, which is their sci-fi one, which is probably why I said Stargrave minis. That makes a lot more sense, I hope, at this point. I've yet to try any contrast paint and aren't likely to anytime soon. At $11 plus tax, I can get 1 bottle with a 20, enough change to buy a $3 coffee. Oh, that's a bummer. Yeah, like, again, they are, yeah, the contrast paints are like, I think in the States they retail for $7.80, like $7.80, whereas, is this a speed paint? Well, it's a bottle of speed paint medium, but yeah, the speed paints, I think retail for $3.99, or maybe it's $4.25, but, and they're the same size, I believe, because they're 18 milliliter. I could be wrong on that. Only reason I'd ever buy Adeptus Super Smolicus would be to play Pocket 40K. Even then with no Xenos. Yeah, but I don't like Xenos, so I'd be okay with it, but I understand. Let's see here. It was a fast 2 hours. Indeed, I know. So, yeah, everybody, thanks for coming by. And the next time that we see you here will be after Christmas, but it'll be New Year's Eve, I believe. Yes, it will. New Year's Eve. So, hopefully no one will be hungover, because it'll be New Year's Eve, not New Year's Day. So that'll be good. I mean, you might still be hungover. You might have a great Saturday night. Who's to say? But, yeah. I hope everyone has a good couple of weeks. Hope everyone has a good holiday if you're into that kind of thing. You know, stay safe. And hopefully if it's not too snowy or icy if you're traveling and things like that, but maybe you live someplace where you don't have that problem, that's also good too. So yeah, have yourselves a good couple of weeks. I'll have a video on Friday, and I think at this point it's going to be talking about the new Fanatic paints. And then the week after that, which will be the 29th. Yes, the 29th Friday is going to be the Tabletop Minions Awards for 2023. So that's the next 2 weeks worth of videos figured out already, which is always nice. So yeah, TMA is coming, not this upcoming Friday, but the Friday after that, just before the end of the year. And yeah, so we'll see you folks then. And also Twitch, I'll be doing Twitch. I'm back on the Twitch schedule since VinciCon. That sort of messed me up, but everything's all back to normal. And I'll be working on more Necrons and then some other stuff after that, and we'll figure it out. So thanks for coming by, and thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.